With Election Day 2024 just over a month away, let us fill out a 2024 map based off of the latest polling averages in all 50 states. Now in this video, we're going to do it a little differently. Usually we fill out this map based on the margins, but in this election, I wanted to make it a little more realistic since Election Day is coming soon, and we're going to be doing it by poll closing times. So we're going to begin at 6 p.m. and go all the way to midnight. And as you can see, most of the states do close between 8 and 9 p.m. But it's very important for us to go over all of these time periods on our map instead of going it through the traditional area of doing it safe, likely, and lean, so that this way you guys can get a very clear representation of what the numbers are going to be adding up to at certain parts of the day. Keep in mind that a lot of these states are going to take longer to call than others, but this is the most accurate we can get since we do not know exactly when each state that is more competitive will be called. But without further ado, let's get started. I do have a toss-up column here, and the toss-up column is reserved for the states that are 1 point or less in the polling averages. So all the states that only have a point or less lead for a certain candidate will be placed in that toss-up column. First, we have our 6 p.m. poll closings where we only have the states of Indiana and Kentucky. Both of them will be closing at 6, and both of them will be called for Donald Trump very quickly. So he will have a very early 19-0 lead. Back now at 7 p.m., we're going to have a little more poll closings. Up in the Northeast, we're going to have the states of New Hampshire and Vermont closing at 7 p.m. I do expect both these to be called early. We do have Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida also closing their polls. So these are going to be closing. Keep in mind, Florida is a state that the panhandle actually closes a bit later. So it's not going to be all completely at the same time. And I expect Florida to take a little bit longer. But let's get to these polls now. And starting with the state of New Hampshire, the first state that does have polls. Harris is performing fairly well. She leads by 7.7%. That would put that in the likely column. New Hampshire is a state that I expect will go to Harris. Then we have Vermont, going to be very safe for Harris. Then we're going to have the state of South Carolina, very safe for Donald Trump. We're left with 3 other states. The state of Virginia right now is closer than in 2020, where Trump has cut Biden's margin in half against Harris. She only leads by 4.8%, and that would be putting it in the lean column. Now the state of Georgia is going to be next over here, where Trump is up by 1.5%. That is over 1 point, so that's enough to put it in the tilt column for the former president. And then the final state in this time period being called would be the state of Florida. Trump is up by 6 points in the state of Florida, which is just enough to put the state in the likely column for the former president. So we can see from this map at 7 p.m., we expect Donald Trump to take an early lead. Obviously, this is not going to last. But now let's go to the 7:30 p.m. poll closings. And in these poll closings, we're going to have the states of Ohio, West Virginia, and North Carolina closing. Only 3 states. All of them do favor Donald Trump. The state of West Virginia, not much polling. It will be safe for Donald Trump, one of the most Republican states in the country. The state of Ohio is going to be next, and we do have some polling. Trump is up by 8.2 percentage points on average, which is a lot more than both in 2016 than in 2020. This will be placed in the likely column for the former president. And then we have the very, very crucial swing state of North Carolina. Donald Trump is up by 1.4%, which is also better than in 2016 and in 2020. And this is one of the states where Donald Trump has pulled away in recent weeks from Kamala Harris. And this will be going into that tilt column for him as well. And then now we go to the 8 p.m. poll closings, and this is probably one of the biggest batch of poll closings. We have North and South Dakota closing. We have the states of Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee. We have Missouri. We have Illinois. We have Michigan, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, D.C., Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut. And then we have all of Maine. So this is the largest poll closing out of any time. 204 electoral votes up for grabs. Let's fill out Harris's safe states first. And these are states that are not going to be really competitive. We're going to have Rhode Island, Massachusetts, DC, Maryland, Delaware, Connecticut, Maine's 1st district that are probably going to be called right away, as well as New Jersey. We do not have too much polling in the state of New Jersey, so we're going to be placing this in the safe column for her. We have the state of Illinois, which also doesn't have any polling as well, so it is also going to be placed in the safe column for her, and we do expect this to be called fairly quickly for her. For Trump now, safe states include North and South Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, and the rest of these will be a bit closer. Let's start with the state of Texas. And in the state of Texas, Trump is up by 5.2 percentage points on average, which is a little bit less than what he wanted by in 2020. However, I do expect these polls to underestimate him by a bit. Either way, this would put the state in the lean column for the former president. The state of Michigan is one of the crucial swing states, and one of them that Harris does actually lead by over a point. She leads by 1.7%. She is doing worse than Biden and Clinton in the same day in history, but still a small lead nonetheless. That would put the state in the tilt margin for her. And then we're going to have our first toss-up, the state of Pennsylvania. Most polls are a tie despite a few outliers. Harris is up by 0.4 on average. Once again, less than Biden and Clinton. This is going to be a state that goes in the toss-up column. It will be remaining in that toss-up column. And then the state of Maine, which is going to be the final state we go over here. We have the polling data for Maine at large. The latest one has Harris up by 9 and 17. We're going to take the latest one out of here because there is no average. Harris is up by a likely margin. And in the 2nd district, Trump is up by a likely margin as well. And this is where we are after our 8 p.m. poll closings. We have Trump at 207 and then Harris at 109. Keep in mind, many of these states will take a lot longer to call than others, such as the state of Michigan and the state of Texas will not be called right away. But this is just a general map showing us how these numbers are going to change from east to west. And speaking of that, next we have our 8:30 poll closings. It is just the state of Arkansas that is a safe state for Donald Trump. And let's jump straight forward to our 9 p.m. poll closings where we have the second batch of states. We're going to have Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming. We're going to have Nebraska and all of its electoral votes. We're going to have the state of Iowa. We're going to have Louisiana, Minnesota, Wisconsin, and New York State. So another huge batch of electoral votes. Many of these states will be safe and many of them will be competitive. These safe ones for Trump include Wyoming, all of Nebraska except the 2nd, and Louisiana. Let's start with the state of Arizona. And Arizona is a state that Donald Trump has been doing very well in the polls. He leads by 2 points, similar to his 2016 polling average. And that would put the state in the lean column for the former president. The state of New Mexico has not seen too much polling, but the polling we have seen looks very good for Kamala Harris, and she does lead by 10.5, which puts it in that likely column for her. Up one state, we have the state of Colorado. We have only one poll, a Dem internal, has Harris up by 18, a little less than Biden's win in 2020, but still double digits and would put it in that likely column for her as well. We have Iowa here, not much polling. Only one poll was included that has Trump up by 4. Obviously, he's not going to win by 4, but this is the only poll we have, so it would put the state in the lean column for the former president. The state of Minnesota is another state that we've really been looking at, and one of the states that has been seeing better margins for Trump since Biden won it by 7.2. This would put it in the lean margin for Kamala Harris since she is up by 4.7%. Before we go to Wisconsin, let us go to Nebraska's 2nd district. This is a district that Democrats have been doing very well in. And Real Clear Politics does not include the polling averages, but I can tell you from the polling averages that I have seen on other sites, this is going to fall in that lean column for Harris. Then we have the state of Wisconsin over here. And the state of Wisconsin is probably going to be one of the closest races on this map. Usually Democrats are heavily overestimated. Back in 2020, Biden was supposed to win by 6 and he ended up winning by 0.6. And we had Clinton up by 4.7 and Trump ended up winning the state by 0.7. Now Harris is only up by 1 and this is not enough to move the needle. This would be staying in that toss-up column. And then finally, we have the state of New York, and usually New York would be a safe state, but the polls we've seen have been a lot closer recently. We have 2 polls that came out this month. The Hill Emerson has Harris up by 14. Siena has Harris up by only 13. This is just enough to put it in that safe column. And we're now at the 10 p.m. poll closings. And in the 10 p.m. poll closings, we're going to have some of these more western states closing. Utah, Nevada, Idaho, Montana, and Oregon will all be closing. Safe states for Kamala Harris would include the state of Oregon, while Trump is going to win Montana, Idaho, and Utah by very, very safe amounts as well. The state of Nevada is also a very competitive state. The last poll does have Trump up by 1, but the polling average in general does have Harris up by 1.2, which would put the state in the tilt column for the vice president. And then finally, in the mainland US, we have Washington and California closing, both very, very safe western states for the vice president. At midnight, we do have the final 2 states of Alaska and Hawaii closing. I expect both to be called pretty quickly, and either one will be placed in the safe column for the respective candidates. And this is going to be our map based on polling averages. And we have Trump at 262, Harris at 247. We have 2 toss-up states, the states of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. The polling in those 2 states are less than a point, so it is going to be falling in that toss-up column. And this is going to be our video, and this is going to be our map. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Share all my videos in the comment section below, and let me know what you guys want to see. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll check you guys out in the next one.